Where do you start the story of you've made $1 million in 2 years and 3 months? I went to a very abusive boarding school.
She kind of lost like that spark in her eye.
I did not realize that me, myself, had behaviors, patterns, and conditionings from my own trauma. Is this gonna be my life? My life needs to look different. My life needs to be different. I liked insurance, it was fun. So I start doing that. I teach the class, knock it out of the frickin' park. 100% pass rate, which is totally unheard of. My identity is teacher. So I start my business in January of 2022.
And to her, it was like evidence that she could do it.
One person bought, and her name was Melissa.
Which was scary and terrifying to even put out as an offer. In July, I met who would become my husband, David. He was living in what could have been labeled an abandoned house.
It was a hard time.
Okay, I'm working on learning how to nurse my baby. I can't not do this.
You could pull money out of her ass. Like, that's just that's a talent.
Millions of dollars are supposed to happen.
You know, she was so bought into this idea that not only was this gonna work for her, but this was gonna work for other people.
I'm done. Okay, so the journey of the actual insurance exam queen and the money's being made is not just a journey of figuring out strategy, but also continuing to heal, remove conditioning, remove programming. So much of what happened in the journey of making money was not necessarily changing my strategy, or building my strategy, but changing my belief system. So I start my business in January of 2022. How I know to make money is to offer tutoring. So I offer tutoring at $33 an hour, and I start putting up videos on YouTube, encouraging them to email me, to ask for support, and to let me know if they need tutoring. And so I booked some appointments. I got some tutoring appointments for $33 an hour. And in the first month of January, I made $220.
I remember the first month in her business, she called me and she said, I sold $220. And to her, it was like evidence that she could do it. It was like having that first sale and knowing like, wait, someone actually bought something from me. This is no longer a concept or an idea. This is a reality. This is actually happening. But to me, being multiple steps ahead from society's view in entrepreneurship, I was like, $220 ain't girl. You need to like, what is your plan? What is your marketing? Do you have any income coming in to help you while you get this set up? Like, my brain was on overdrive with wanting logic and wanting to know how. And then my sister would remind me, that's not the way I'm doing this. I'm doing this out of sheer belief. I'm doing this in a new paradigm shift, in a new way of thinking.
The fact that I made any money at all was super exciting to me because I hadn't ever really made money outside of what was a job per se.
And so as my sister is saying, I'm gonna choose something different. I'm going to do what we preach. I'm going to manifest the life that I want. And it started to inspire me to do the same. And so we're talking and we're keeping each other up on what's going on. And my sister's encouraging me. When I told my sister that I wanted to run my first healing retreat, she fronted the money to book the Airbnb, and then I didn't have to pay her back until I sold tickets to the retreat. Like, and this is before Melissa, by the way, was making $1 million. This was in the beginning when Melissa was still trying to figure it out herself. She's like, I got you. I got a credit card. Like, we can, she was so bought into this idea that not only was this going to work for her, but this was going to work for other people.
So I get going. I begin to pick up speed in terms of like people seeing me on YouTube. I have a couple of insurance agencies who reach out to me and do some classes, but I still am pretty low in price. And I got up to, do you want some milk? I got up to $1,500 the month of February. To me, this is amazing evidence that I'm on the right track. In March I get the idea that instead of just doing tutoring and personal classes, to offer public ticket classes. So instead of saying $33 for 1 hour with me, which was crazy and hectic, and I was not a good person to figure out time differences and calendars and schedules and all of that. So if I could just set one calendar date for classes and allow people to get 4 hours of me instead of, 1 hour with me for 33 or 55, whatever. I eventually raised my tutoring to 55 an hour. But I was like, I'm gonna sell tickets for between the $30 to $50 range for classes. So in March, I started offering classes, and it's a huge success. And I made in March of 2022, $2,800. April continues to be the same, offering the classes, and April is $2,500. Two major things happened in the month of April. I made the decision to invest in a coach. I had been working with Christine for a while, but only within her programs, not on a one-on-one capacity. And I loved everything I was learning in Christine's programs, and I wanted to, lock in the fact that I wanted to work with her. And she was offering a special that for like $3,333, because we all love angel numbers, that I could lock into like her quarterly courses. I would be able to get every single thing she offered, for the next 3 to 6 months, I believe. And so I paid $3,000 to make that happen. And I used some of my 401k savings that I had cashed out. So I booked with Christine, and magically, she tells me I was the only one to purchase that quarterly package.
Like masterclass series, hundreds of people signed up. I just knew all of these people were going to say yes and buy my bundle. Nope. One person bought, and her name was Melissa.
And so she decided that meant I get to have one-on-one with her.
Instead of me being like, oh, well, let me just refund her money because this is supposed to be a group program, I said, okay, it must be like, I was like, this must be for her. She must have manifested like this. So let me call her. So I called her personally and said, guess what? You're the only one. I said, so you must have manifested this, and we're going to work one-to-one for this.
Which was insane compared to like the value of what I paid. Because now I pay that for just 1 month, not up to 6 months. Now I'm getting able to work with her one-on-one. The other thing that happened in the month of April, which again was about $2,500 I earned that month, I split up with my second husband. Our relationship was good for like the first 3 months, and then we got married in the first 3 months. After that, it was not so great. I realized that our marriage was essentially a massive trauma bond. I went through a ton of healing and therapy work to heal those parts of me. So he leaves in the month of April, and May just utterly blew up. Not only had I invested in Christine, but I had also removed the toxic relationship. It was no longer a part of my life, and May blew up to $7,000. I was not so good with the numbers and adding and tallying and calculating. So in March or May, I was beginning to have a little bit of a freak out because I was like, Christine, you're helping me so much. What happens when our journey of, I paid for up to 6 months of time with her. What's going to happen when that ends?
And she looked back and I said, can you add up? I said, show me, tell me what you did in January, February, March.
And she was like, it's gonna come in, like, don't worry about it. Like, she's like, figure out how much money are you making?
So she could look at it and be aware of the money that was coming in.
And so I sat and I added the numbers. I had to add PayPal, Stripe, money came in from a couple different places and different sources. And I added it up and it was $7,000. And I was like, OMG. Like $7,000 was more money than I had ever made in a month at one time, except for like a bonus check from a job or something.